Good morning. This is Condo, and today we are going to be talking about writing a contract on a condo and making that an as-is contract. And so the first thing that we're going to do is just remember a couple things. Whenever you're writing a contract, you need to know what type of property you're actually writing a contract on, the type of sale that the contract might be. So, is it a short sale, bank-owned kind of property? Who is selling the property? If it's a bank that's selling the property, is it an individual? Is it a trust? Is it, an estate? Because all those kind of things are going to affect the type of contract that you write, addendums that need to go along with the contract, and then what type of contract do you want to use? Do you want to use an as-is contract? Do you want to use a regular contract? For our class today, we're going to be using a as-is contract. We're going to be writing on a condominium. It's an individual's property, and so the type of property you're writing on is a condo. The type of sale is a regular sale from an individual. Who's selling the property? An individual selling the property, and we're going to be using an as-is contract. So that's how the form is kind of designed to jog your memory. So then when I work with the buyer, when I'm working with the buyer, I have a worksheet here that I can use to kind of get started. And how my worksheet works is it's just got the property address at the top. If I don't have my buyer's information, it gives me an opportunity to gather their information. If I happen to know what the seller's name is, I can jot it down. So I can put the property address in here. I can then talk to them about what purchase price that they want to put down. What is their initial deposit going to look like? Okay, do they have an escrow company that they want to hold the escrow, or a title company they want to have title? Is there additional deposits going to be going with this particular contract? Is there any financing that is involved? If it is, what percentage? Okay, and keep this in mind, if it's an FHA buyer and they're looking at a condo, there are reasons that a condominium might not be FHA approved. And what I mean by that is the actual condominium has applied to be approved for FHA. So if you happen to have an FHA buyer that wants to buy a condo, you need to check to make sure that that condominium complex fills out the proper paperwork to accept buyers in that complex that have an FHA mortgage. All right, and so you can check with the listing agent on that. You have your balance to close, and then the type of financing, conventional, FHA, VA type of financing application. Have they made application? When would they like to close on this particular contract? We want to know what the closing date is for them. Today we already know that we're doing an as-is contract, but if I'm interviewing the buyer before writing the contract, I need to explain the benefits between an as-is contract and a regular contract, and this allows me to make a decision, while I'm in the field, quickly take a note of what type of contract they want. If there's repair limits, what are the repairs limits they want? Standard, the repair limits are 1.5% for each of these items. One is material defect, the next one is wood destroying organisms, and the next one is open permit. So I can put a dollar amount in here. It just depends, am I in a competitive offer situation? The next thing is who is paying the title, and then who's going to select the title. So I can have the buyer select the title and the buyer pays. If the seller selects the title, the seller pays. I can split it, but I have to write special information in to the contract to be able to do that. Is there going to be a home warranty? Who's going to pay for that home warranty? Is there going to be a home inspection? Most buyers pay for their own home inspection, but sometimes there might be a septic or something else that needs to be checked out that you may ask the seller to pay for in certain instances. When's your inspection date? A lot of times in the contract it's automatically 15 days, so you might shorten that up if you're in a competitive situation. And then you have your termite date. And down below on the worksheet, these are all our potential addendums that we could add to a contract that are automatic. So we don't have to worry about writing up the language. We can just jump right in here and pick one of these addendums that's already pre-done and go with it. The more we can use pre-done things, the better. All right. Hey, good morning, Jason.
Morning.
How are you?
Hanging in there. How are you?
Good, good. So I noticed that you just asked we're going to be working on an as-is contract, and the answer is yes. We will be doing an as-is contract today.
I was saying I was going to try to follow along in my actual transaction desk as you went along with the transaction.
Perfect. Perfect. So this would be our normal field worksheet, while we're out in the field. And here's all the possible addendums, and I go over this each time with the agents so that they go through the addendum chart and they know which addendums need to go with what contract. This is homework for any agent that doesn't know these addendums. You need to master these. So, or at least refer to these every time that you're ready to write a contract so that you know which addendums go with what type of contract. And again, today we're going to be writing on a condominium, and it's going to be an as-is contract. And not only that, but the condominium happens to be in a large association. So there's a homeowners association as well. So the property that I picked out has a lot of little angles to it, so you can kind of explore that together. All right, so let's jump right into the transaction desk. And here's the property that I selected to write the offer on. So if you want, Jason, you can type in the MLS number and get right to it. It's A as in Apple 4135383 is the number.
Okay, I'll do it right now.
All right, so the reason I picked this property is, again, I want to demonstrate how to write on a condominium that happens to be in a homeowner association and a condominium association. We've really talked about this a couple times in class, but this property falls in that category. Now, the first thing that I do when I look at the property is I look at the supplement. So when I click here on this button, the attachment, I'm able to pull up the supplement. So I click on that button here on my supplement. I actually have the rules and regulations right here in application. I have a floor plan of the unit, and then I have all the disclosures. So I look right here and I open up all my disclosures. Here are all the disclosures. There are 13 disclosures, and as I come through them, I notice that I have several different types of disclosures in here. This particular disclosure is a homeowners association disclosure, right? And I mentioned to you that we're buying a condo that also has a homeowners association to it. This happens to be a CDD disclosure, and I'm kind of going backwards through this. And then there's a condominium disclosure, which is three pages. And then they have a Chinese Firewall disclosure as well. And then you get into your regular condominium disclosure for the unit itself. So these are all the disclosures. So I'm going to save this to my desktop, all right? Because I'm going to have to upload this into my system, all right? And I create a file called training deals, and I'm going to stick this into my file. And if I were going to send the rules and regulations to my particular client, I can do that through the system as well. Okay, and so I could come here and download the rules and regulations that I'm going to be sending over to them. All right. Training deals right in there. All right, so I have all the download systems that I need to be able to write the contract first. I got those in place into a folder. The next thing I'm going to do is look down here and look at the instructions at the very bottom. All right, because the instruction in the welcome marks might have some specific things that have to do with the property. It says CDD is included in the taxes, water heaters new, farm wall closet included as well as cabinets in the garage. All showing service is casual showing, state code and get gate codes, and there's the phone number. All right, so they put the phone number there, they put the phone number up there. I'm good to go. And the next thing I want to do is I want to look at the owner's name. I can see on record, okay? So I got on record, which means I'm going to have to look up the homeowner. How you look up the homeowners association? I like to use IMAP, but you can also use Realist as well, okay? Which would be right here. I'm going to use the IMAP. And I'm going to open it up in a new link in a new tab. All right, so that's opening up for me now. And now I got that open. And I was looking at everything in a large map here earlier. I can change this down to a small map to make it a little easier for me. And the information is up here on the right-hand side. I can see that STEM Investments LLC has the property. So I think, and I'm going to see if that was recently purchased. All right, and I can see here a couple things have gone through on this particular, and sales information. Only a couple things back in 2006. So I would just assume that this is the right person that is the owner of the property at this time. STEM Investments LLC. All right, so now that I have that information, I'm going to come back to my MLS. There's a little icon that has a TD. You can also write contracts in Form Simplicity, which is a whole other contract writing software that's provided by the Florida Association of Realtors. I don't train on that. I train on transactions. That's why I teach all of our agents to write transactions in. It seems to be a little cleaner and more rigid and easier for most agents to work in. So we're going to click on the TD, which is now going to launch Transaction Desk with the information for this contact or for this condo already. So it's going to bring over all the information about the property that it could. And you'll notice real quick in Transaction Desk, this is an overview of the property up here. The next section are documents that I've uploaded. This section right here are the incident forms within the system. And down here below are the participants in the transaction. And so because we have on records for seller, I'm going to need to get in there and fix that. I have Brookshire, the listing agent. You can see I'm showing up as the selling agent, and our company is the selling broker. So if I want to add someone, I can do two things. I would like to add a contact and participant. I can do something right here. There's all kinds of things I can do right from here. I can also click on the edit button, which takes me just to the edit the contacts that are part of the transaction. And again, I still have the menu up here. I would like to add a new transaction. So yes, I want to click on this. I'm going to add a buyer to the transaction. And the buyer that I'm going to add is, we're going to add Shannon Keller today. And her email address, I like to do electronic signatures. All right, and then I'm going to save that. That's my buyer. And then I'm going to add another buyer to the transaction. And we'll go with Mike Code. And you want to make sure that the name is in the last name field, or it won't recognize that it's a separate name. Okay. And I'm going to give them my email address as well. Okay. I'm going to hit save. So now I have my two buyers into the transaction. I know I need to edit the seller because the seller is great. So I click on edit, and now I can come in and change this information. Okay. And so I can look over here at the tax record information, and I can get the information I'm trying to get. I'm going to go ahead and take the second half of the name and add that over here. And then I'm going to take the first half of the name and put that over here in the front section. Like so. And then I'm going to hit save. And now I can see all my parties are right for my transaction. And the reason I do this first is because having all my my contacts that are part of the transaction correct will help when I bring the forms in, it'll fill the forms out properly. Okay? So I'm going to come back to my transaction overview, and from here I need to add form. I got two buttons I can do that. I can go here and click on Internet Forms. I can also click on Add Forms here, or I can go to this section and add forms from this section. So I'm just going to click on the little icon here that just says Add Form. All right, and so it takes me to the form, what I call the form folder, all right, or form filing cabinet. And the first filing cabinet is individual forms. So I open that up, and now I have more filing cabinets. Well, here is where the two contracts are. We have the FAR residential contract or the FAR bar. Here at White Sands, we like to use the FAR bar, has a little more teeth. Here's the as-is contract. So that's the one that I need. And I'm going to hold down my control key because if there's additional things that I may want to add, I can add things. I already have a condominium disclosure coming. I have a defective drywall disclosure coming. I have a homeowners association, coming, and I have a condominium disclosure. So I really don't have a lot of addendums that I can add. But the seller's concerned, and he wants his attorney to look over everything. Okay, so he wants me to add an attorney approval writer. So we're going to add that to our contract. I selected the forms that I need. I'm going to go ahead and click on Add. Pardon me. All right, so now you can see it says up here, forms successfully imported. Well, I got my forms in here, so now I'm going to select them. And you see this button right here that says auto-populate and update the form. If I click on that button with my forms, you can see now it changed. All forms successfully updated. So what it did was it took the buyer and seller's name, information about the property, and pushed that into the contract. All right, so now I'm ready to go ahead and finish filling out my contract. So I'm going to jump right in here, and you can see what I mean by it filled in all the customer's names into the contract. So I have my two buyers, I have my one seller, information about the property, legal description about the property. Here are the items that are going to be left with the home. And you'll notice that washer and dryer isn't one of the pre-written ones in here. So we're going to make sure that we get that washer and dryer. All right. We're going to add that. We don't have any pool equipment. There's nothing really else that's going to be left with the property that I would request. In the MLS, though, you'll notice in the remarks section down here at the bottom, they said that they're going to leave the armoire closet, okay, and the cabinets in the garage. So I might just highlight this, okay, and put that into my contract. Why? Because now it's not just hearsay of what it is. I'm going to put on this contract. It's exactly what they said was going to say and stay with the contract. So I'm going to put that in here. So now everyone knows that that's staying with the property. All right, so I haven't talked to my client about price on the property. So I'm going to look here at the price of the property. They're asking $279. The property has been on the market almost 80 days. So let's make them an offer of, let's say, $260 on this property. All right, so we're going to make them an offer of $260 on the property. And I'd like to do about 2% down all right, as my down payment. So 2% of this number would be right around that $5,000 mark, and I like to round either up or down to the nearest 5. So I'm just going to ask for $5,000 as my initial deposit, okay? And I'm going to check the box here to be made within 3 days from the effective date. It may take us 5 days in negotiating the contract, and if I put accompany the contract, I have to collect the check right now. And not only that, but as soon as I collect the check, whether I have a contract or I don't have a contract, okay, in the offer is still at the offer stage. It hasn't been accepted to turn it into a contract. The offer is just an offer. I still would be required to do something with my escrow money. So I would prefer to negotiate all my terms in my offer until we get to contractual state. And then once I get to contractual state, I then want to collect my money and deliver it to the escrow company. All right? So in our scenario, we're going to do that. We're not going to accompany, because if I don't have a deal within 2 days, I still have to turn in the check even though I don't have a deal to a title company. So I want to avoid that. All right. I don't know who's going to be the title company or the escrow company. So I'm going to be, to be determined. In additional terms, we're not going to have any additional deposits, but we are getting financing. We're getting the 80% loan. So we're getting a conventional loan. We're putting 20% down. And you'll notice my balance to close changed to balance. And that's because we have a percentage in here. $5,000 down, 80% of the purchase value, and then the balance is cash. I'm going to give them 2 days to get back to me on my offer. And remember this, if they don't get back to me on the offer, it just means the buyer doesn't have to accept it if they don't get back to me by this date. A closing date, when do I want to close? Well, we have a mortgage. So we're going to go a minimum of 30 days out. I'm looking at 45 to 60. So I'm probably going to take this out to the end of February, give my guy plenty of time to get his loan and over any hurdles. The other thing I want you to notice on the contract, you'll notice these stars over here on the left-hand side. Every star in the contract means there's a blank in the contract that can take information. All right, so I want to make sure that I look at all my blanks. Now, if I'm in one blank now, I can use my tab key, and it takes me to the next available blank. All right, so it just continues taking me through. I would check this box if the property was subject to a lease, but it's not. Assignability, most contracts are not assignable, so I'm going to go ahead and check the box not assignable. The buyer will pay cash. No, that doesn't apply. The contract is contingent on buyer obtaining a loan commitment and financing. And I mentioned to you we're getting a conventional loan, all right, and they're going to get the commitment with 45 days before closing. I'm just going to go ahead and type it in there. I'm not sure if they're going to get a fixed or an adjustable mortgage. I'm going to give them an option there. I'm going to put 4.5%. It's not going to exceed that. And they're looking for a 30-year mortgage. The buyer shall make mortgage application to get the finance debt. Well, if it's left blank, it's 5 days. Well, I'm going to narrow that down to 3. They may have already made application. I do want to point one thing out. If they have an approval, if they already have a loan approval, that does not mean that they've made application. That just means they've spoken to a loan officer. Making an application is much different. It's going through the whole process of filling out an actual loan application and supplying documents that support that loan application. Okay? So making an application is a much bigger deal than just getting pre-approved. So don't be fooled by the pre-approval letter. They still have to make loan application here. All right, so moving on along, if I use my tab, I jump me back to the top of the page. So I continue with my tabs. I continue to move through the page. All right. Assumption of an existing mortgage note. Are we doing a purchase money mortgage note? Do I have other closing expenses? Not really. You shouldn't really put too much in here. If you have them paying for buyers' closing costs, you might put buyers' closing costs are prepaid, but you don't spell anything out. You do that in the addendum. You just, are just disclosing what possibly could be here. Evidence of title, 15 days is adequate, so I'm just going to go ahead and put 15 days in there. The seller, we're going to let the seller pick the closing agent, okay? And the seller to pick and the seller to pay in our scenario. Down here we have a right to get a survey, a home warranty on the property. It's a condo. We're not going to really ask for a home warranty. This is a tricky one with condos. I'm going to go ahead and first select the seller shall pay all assessments in full prior to closing. They may counter back and say, you know what, the seller will pay for payment installments prior to closing, but then the buyer's got to pick up the payments after closing. All right? They may counter with that, but I'm going to try to flush out any type of payment plan that the seller may be on with paying any assessment. So if they tell me there's not an assessment, great. But I'm ensuring that if there were any hidden assessments, the seller is responsible this way. If they come back and check the box that they want to pay installments, I'm going to challenge them and say, why are you changing it to the installment taking over? Is there an installment out there you're worried about? Well, no, there's not. Great. Well, let's do some investigating to make sure there isn't. These are your disclosures. And again, you can go through the contract and go over all the different types of disclosures. So there's array on gas, closing out permits, flood disclosure, mold disclosure, energy efficiency disclosure, lead date change disclosure, homeowner association, community, condominium disclosure, real property tax summary disclosure, a purpose disclosure, and a seller's disclosure. So just identify and tell you what each of those disclosures are, the maintenance of the property, how they have to keep it. Because we are writing an as-is contract, it's normally 15 days to do our inspection period, okay? I'm going to change that. I'm going to make this offer look a little more attractive to 10 days. And the reason why is, as an as-is contract, for any reason, up until the inspection period, I can cancel this contract and receive the full deposit back for the buyer. Talks about your walkthrough inspection. This then talks about the cooperating to close out any open building permits, assigning any treatments or warranties with anything that was repaired, what the escrow agent's position is, professional advice, what the broker's liability is. I have to really, what you see is what you get, as I kind of try to tell. Okay, I can only see what you see. I talked about the buyer default. Here's a section that talks about the seller default. If there's a dispute between both buyer and seller, how is that going to be resolved? The prevailing party can collect attorney fees. And now we're going to get into title insurance and title evidence. So this is going to tell you all about title, your title examination, your survey, ingress and egress, which is access to your property, any lease information, any liens on the property. How is time calculated for this contract? Well, it's calendar days, okay, unless it falls on a weekend or a holiday, the last day, then it moves to the next available business day, all right? So you need to know that. If there were some acts of terrorism or weather-related that was out of our control, it just says that we grant 14 more days to try to get it closed automatically. Conveyances that everyone's available to convey the property in a deed. The closing should take place in the county in which the property is located. A lot of times, sellers want, banks want to try to close a property in a different county. You can force them to pick a company that's locally based on the contract, unless they have some special provisions in their addendum that allows them to change it. And again, that's why banks use their own addendum so they can force you to do things the way they want it done. In our case here for this contract, we're just going to try to close locally in our area. This talks about closing out of escrow, what prorations are, CDDs, taxes, condo fees, all that stuff will be prorated based on who's in the property at what time. Access to the property, just something got to go. Grant us that. Risk of loss if the property were to burn down. We don't have to buy it, so they can bring it back to its present condition. Is it part of the 1031 exchange? If it's not part of notice, delivery of the contract and notices, and how you can get that back to the emails. It has a lot of ways that we can communicate. If it's not part of the contract, it's not something that we've agreed upon, so we do that. If the buyer, buyer or seller fail to do certain things, they're going to be doing waivers for the contract. Writers, addendum, how can things be handwritten or can they be typed? It can be both. Okay. Collection of the money, deposit, loan commitment, application, foreign seller, this is your purpose disclosure. And then we slide on in here to, to our addendum. And in our situation, we're going to add a condominium right, a homeowners association. And I've added an attorney's approval. So I'm going to look for that in here somewhere. We have a Chinese Firewall disclosure. All right, buyer's attorney approval. And I believe that's all the addendums. You can see this contract is going to have quite a few addendums. All right. The last thing is offer, and then this is our signature page. So this one's completely done. So before I exit out of here, I always come here and I hit save. And then once I hit save, I now come to my exit. All right. So I've exited out of that, and then now I'm ready to move on to my next document, which is my addendum, which is my attorney approval. And you'll notice all the information kind of filled in here. It's just an initial. When am I going to have their attorney approve it? Well, we have an inspection period for 10 days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm assuming that Friday will be my day, so I'm going to go 2 more, and I'm going to give them until the 25th to get their attorney approval, okay, which is mirroring the inspection period of the property. And that's it. That's all it is. They want us to make sure that the attorney looks at their contract. So now I hit save. And I also exit out of this now. So my 2 documents that I have that were in the system are now here. And I'm ready to go. So I'm going to come back to my transaction overview. Here over here on the right are my contracts that I just filled out. But now what I need to do is upload some documents. The documents that I downloaded from the MLS, I need to upload in the system here. So I'm going to click on the edit button. And when I click on the edit button, it brings me to here. I can actually email the documents in. I can select upload the documents through the menu. I like the little shortcut right here, to upload documents. So I'm going to just click on that, and it's going to, I'm going to call this disclosures. All right, it's probably even going to ask you what it is. I'm just going to put it under HOA disclosure addendum. All right, and then you can see here, I may only upload 1 document at a time. So I'm just going to upload the 1 document that I have. All right, so that's the one right there. I'm going to upload, and then I'm going to hit add to transaction, and now it's working on uploading. Okay. All right, so I have that in there. I want to add another one. So this time I'm just going to come in here and hit the upload and hit the little orange button. Now this time these are the regs. Okay. And I'm just going to see here real quick if they had something for that report. Again, I'm going to put this as I'll leave it as none. Maybe I don't have to put anything in here. And then I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to add my application rules and regs. And now I'm going to upload that. It may take a few minutes. It might be a large file. All right, so that's in my transaction. And now when I come over here to my transaction overview, I'm ready to go. Now, if I were going to send this out to me or to Michael for approval, there's two ways that you can send that contract out for approval. From here, I want to go to my editing page. So I need to click on Edit, and I select my form. And from here, I can now email the form. All right. Email selected form, and I hit go on that. Now I can do two things. I can send as a link and allow the participant to make changes. So if you send it to me and you send it this way, I'll actually have a link to these documents and I'll be able to make some changes if necessary. Or you can send them to me as an attachment, okay? Either way is fine. And then you would just put down my name here and then my email address to send them out for my approval, okay? And if you want to do the same thing for the other documents, okay, I click on Documents here, these are the disclosures and rules and regs, and I would just come through and check these boxes. And again, select email things. I can send as an attachment as well. If I do it as a link, I'm not really going to be able to do any editing on these forms, but I can, but as an attachment, I can see them as well. And then you put my email address in and send that out, okay? And you don't have to have the cover page anytime you send out to me and Michael. And I highly recommend that you send this out to both of us, to Michael and myself, so that we have two sets of eyes looking at them. A lot of times I'm in meetings and I'm not able to take a look as quickly as Michael is. So it's best that you send it out to both of us. All right? So if I were to meet them in person, I could print these out, get them signed, or I could use Authentisign. And Authentisign is an electronic signature software. So I'm going to use Authentisign and show you how that works. Now, Authentisign costs money every year. It's $29 a year, and that's for the entire year to do electronic signatures. And it's built right into the system. So because I'm in the transaction, a lot of agents sometimes jump off and they come over here and they click on this button called Authentisign. Well, that just takes me to the Authentisign program. If I click on the Authentisign over here within my transaction overview view, it starts a new signature for this transaction. Okay? The other button takes me to the software program overall. This button starts a signature inside that new software, inside that software. So I'm going to click on this button and show you how that works. And here we go. It automatically named the signature thing that I need to get signed. It named it by the address. It's asking me if I want to do an inline thing, and that's fine. I normally do inline. And then I can then I hit my participants next. So where are my participants? Well, they're part of my transaction, or I can add them right now. Since I have them already in my transaction, I could just come right here and pick out the ones that are in my transaction. Okay, and you can see it has them as a remote signer. So today I'm going to do in-person signing. Okay, I've got my laptop with me, or I have my tablet with me, and I wrote up the contract like at a coffee place. And I'm just going to do in person because we're meeting back up, and I can just show them on my tablet and go from there. All right, so you can see here I got two people. The first person I have is Tammy. The next person I have is Mike. If I wanted to reverse that role, I could. Okay. Man, we're missing information. Oh, I have to put an email in for the host. All right, because I said they're going to be signing in person. I don't know what I sent it. I guess I could just create one. See if that works. Apparently, I must need to do this too. Yep. All right. So I got my two participants, and I have them in the order that I want. We're going to have Tammy sign first, and then we're going to have Mike sign second. And now I need to upload my document. All right. Right here, I can bring them from anywhere pretty much in my computer or online. But I already have a transaction started. All right. I'm going to pull them in from my transaction. I want the as-is contract. I want the attorney approval. I want the disclosure, and then I'm going to have the rules and regulations. I may email them the rules and regulations in a separate email if it doesn't have to be part of my transaction, or I can email it all at one time. Because remember, the rules and regulations, they don't need to sign. I'm in my signature software because I need things signed. I don't exactly need them just to read them. I need them signed. But I'm going to leave out the rules and regs right now because I need them just to sign my disclosures to get the offer in. I'll email them the rules and regulations. All right, so the system pops up and it says, who are my buyers? Now, I could reverse these if I want. If I want to put buyer Tammy first and, Mike second, but I believe I have them in the transaction as Tammy first and Mike second. So I'm going to leave them that way so that they show up on their names properly. They're both roles are buyer one, buyer two. I'm going to save that. All right, so here are all my documents. You'll notice these two documents have little yellow boxes on them. These are the Internet forms. The Internet form understands automatically where all the initials and the signature boxes are. So I don't have to figure out where they are. And you'll notice on this one, these aren't figured out. And so I'm going to have to figure these out. Now, all right, so it's wanting me to preview these documents because it's saying that there may be a page or two that's rotated the wrong way. So I just want to scroll through here and make sure that the pages are correct and they're all facing the proper way before I proceeded. All right, so everything's in here. Now, if there were pages in here I didn't want, I could delete pages, I could rename pages, I could do all kinds of things. The program's pretty good. All right, so we've checked everything out. Now I don't have a red thing, and now I'm ready to go to designing and putting my signatures on the property, on the document. All right, so the first thing that pops up is my contract, and as I mentioned before, the system automatically knows exactly where to put the initials on all the forms. Here's my drag and drop menu, which means I can drag X's over here and drop them. I can drag a signature over here and drop that and have that signed. Or if I need initials, I can drag and drop that. So that's how the drag and drop works. If I need to mark something up, like I need to cross out this line right here, I can just draw this line and cross things out. If I needed them to, something needed to be highlighted or something, I could highlight stuff with my highlighter. If I needed to add a text box in the system, I could text it here, and then I could, I could add stuff to the contract. That makes no sense at all. But I mean, this allows me to do an awful lot. Okay, so these are the two tabs that you really need within the system to do things. Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is you can see Tammy's name's up first, And then under here, there's Mike's name. All right, so if I were to add a signature box, it's going to be for Tammy. Okay, so I'm going to go through the contract and make sure that Tammy's portion and where her initials go is done first. So I can see here on all my incident forms that were uploaded into the system and automatically knew exactly where to go. So I'm just verifying that those got there in the place that they were supposed to be. And then I get all the way to the signature page. I see their signature, the timestamps over here. Everything's looking perfect. Now I'm getting into the writer with the attorney. Well, after this page, this is all the stuff I uploaded. So none of this stuff is going to have what I need. And so you'll notice right here at the bottom, I need to start adding initials. Okay? So this is where I'm going to start adding things on each page as I go. Okay? And I know the forms fairly well, so I kind of can go a little faster. But you want to make sure that you're getting, like, here's the signature page. So where is the signature for the seller? Well, they're not on this page. But there's I'm not sorry, for the buyer. But there's an initial box. Here's the buyer signature. So here's how you do it. You bring the buyer over, you drop them down, and you position it properly. If you right-click, you can add a timestamp. Okay. Not only that, but I can right-click again, and I can do Add Box Name. Now it grabs your name as a box, and I can stick it right there. So that's how easy that is. All right, so I'm going to go on down to my next section. Oops. Drop that off the edge of the page. Good. Okay. I can see here, landlord, buyer's initials. So I need a buyer to initial off on the property. That's the Chinese Firewall. And I have two buyers, so I'm going to put one on this side and one on the other side. All right, here's my buyer signature again. Okay. And then I'm going to timestamp that. There we go. Get some more initials right here on this page. So you can see this part of it, if I'm having to lay my initials out, takes a little bit more time. And you're right, it does. It makes it, you know, if you do electronic signature, it takes a little time to set up. But boy, is it so worth it. It's just so nice not to have to drive around town and get signatures. All right, and so I just want to make sure on this condo disclosure where the signatures were. There's only an initial page. So on the condo writer, you can see here there's only one spot. Only one spot that requires a signature. So you'll notice that the other party did not check off any of these boxes. So I need to add a check. The buyer hereby acknowledges that the buyer was provided a current copy of the declaration, condominium articles, and association. But you know what? I'm not sure if we got the year-end financials in there. All right. So I can still come down here and check this box that says that they didn't get everything. They got some things, but they didn't get everything. Buyer is going to request that they get a copy of everything. All right. All right. So I'm not going to check this until I get all the documents. I don't know if there's any parking element. So that would be everything for the condo disclosure. Now I'm getting into the CDD disclosure. All right. So I can see here, here's the buyer's signature. If I come over here, I need a signature, buyer's name. drop that in. Right click, add my timestamp. All right, now I'm into the HOA disclosure, and again, looks like buyer's initials just over here in the top section. And then it has a buyer signature page right here. Timestamp. All right, so I've completed everything for Tammy. And so now I'm going to go back up the contract backwards, but I'm going to switch. I'm going to move myself over to Mike. So I got Mike's name up here, so now I can start adding Mike's signatures as well. And you may see the boxes overlaying each other. That's okay. And remember, you know, they'll be able to read the names because once they click on that big box, it just, you know, puts things in the right spot. And I see right where I've gone and put initials for Tammy, it's easy for me just to follow that and put initials for Mike. Okay, I'm going through. I see I need a signature here. All right, and don't need extra X's. All right, and then I'm going to put my initials right here. Almost done. Probably going to go about 5 minutes over today. I apologize. Lots of stuff to cover on the contract.
I don't think too many people are going to complain.
Right? I tell you, you know, it's now you can see the, you know, the cumbersome part when you upload the documents, what you got to do. But at the same time, is once I put in the work up front here, I then have everything cut out for myself, you know, because it really just makes it so easy to go and get the signatures now. I don't have to drive around town. I can just take care of it, you know. All right, and so then this gets into the next section that already is there. So the one thing I would have done is review the disclosures here that we uploaded. So since we have them uploaded, let's just take a quick peek here. So here's a condominium disclosure, and it's just like a property disclosure, except it gives a little more information about the condominium kind of side of things. So I would read this through, make sure that the buyer understood that. Okay, and then once we're all done, there's a 200 page for that. And then we move into this section, which is the Chinese Firewall. So it says they don't know of anything on the Chinese Firewall. It's just a general disclosure. They're not making anyone aware. The seller landlord has no active knowledge of the Chinese Firewall, so there's no real active knowledge. They're just disclosing because of the year that the property was built. Okay, nothing to be aware of. Here's the condominium rider. Okay, so they do need approval. The association does have first right of refusal, so they have to offer the unit for sale to the association. but the members of the association do not have a right to buy it. Okay? I can see here the fees are $430.02 are paid quarterly, and then they have another fee of $510.74 that's paid quarterly. Now I'm not sure if that so this was like an assessment, okay, and then this looks like the condominium payments that they're currently making. So we'll have to look into that a little bit further. This talks about any special assessments, if there's any installments. Kind of glad I read through this. I'm just going to leave it here. Guess what I'm saying? The buyer takes over the payments. No, we're going to make you pay those in full. So by looking through here, I can make that. Now I made a change, right? To the document here that has already been signed by the other party. So because I made that change, I'm going to go ahead and put my initial, have my person do their initials right here to this change. That is a counter offer because they left it blank before, and now I changed that. I want to initial it because it's important. I also made that change. And remember, we already had the sellers already signed it. Because I made that change, I might go ahead and put the proper thing would be to put initials here that we changed something. And you can see now that I'm switching back and forth between both the buyers and their initials because it's only about this one area. I'm not going through the whole document itself. All right. So I'm all the way down here under the HO, and I'm under the condominium writer. They're just finishing that up. And then I come into the HOA. I'm sorry, this is the Community Development District, my bad. And it's telling you that it's $972 a year, okay, and that was 2004. We are in 2005. They may have a different fee or something that they can put in there. I can see here, here's a homeowner association, Lake to Jacaranda. It's annual, and they only have to pay $100. Okay, so you can see $100 annually. All right. So that's it. Now I'm ready to send this off to get it signed. So now I can just hit my next button, and it's loading all that stuff up that I've done. And it's asking me, are we ready to send out the invitation? Yes, I am. Let's go ahead and send that out. It says, I'll send a signed invitation for sent. Well, because it sent it to my email, right, I'm in person. If I come to my email, and I could probably come right here to my Instanet form or log into my company email. And you can see here in my box, there's an invitation. And I'm the host for the signing. So I emailed it to myself because I told you I was hosting. So when I'm ready, I just get the people next to me, and I just break out my tablet, and I click on this. And all right, looks like they're asking me to log in. So I guess I have to select my association. I've never done this way before, and I apologize. I should have probably tried it out before talking about it. We're called My Florida Regional MLS. Okay, what's going on here? I don't know why that. I don't know why it did that. Now it's bringing up the boxes automatically when I click on it. Figure that out. All right, so now it's saying, hey, listen, you're hosting, Kano, you're hosting for Tammy. We're ready to continue with Tammy. If I click on continue with Tammy, we're just going to go with the standard e-signatures here. Or I could even draw my own if I wanted to. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and confirm this. Yep, that's fine. I don't know why I can't confirm it. Good one. I'm stuck. I hit enter to get past that. I don't know why it wouldn't take it the first time. So now I'm here. I have a chance to review the document first, so the client can go through and review the document, and then they can hit the start button. When they hit the start button, it takes them to the first signature and it highlights it in the light pink. I click on it, it takes me to the next one here. Something wrong with my computer. There's something down below, and I can't see it. I don't know why it's zoomed in so much. I may have to come in here and fix this. That's why. That's why I haven't been able to see the stuff at the bottom. Okay, so I just continue coming through here, and it tells me my progress. I have 33 of them to do, and every time I click on one, I get through one. So you can just, see that it's going to continue to take me through the whole document, and I can sign off on everything. And even the X's that I put in there, it makes me click on those as well. All right, so that's completed for them. And so I just hit complete, and I go ahead and complete signing, and I just hit complete again, and we're done. Well, heaven forbid, I don't know where it is. Oh, well. Interesting. So, well, that's how you get your signings done, man. But I'd have to check my email here to see about my my signature, my hosting pen. I thought I set it up. Yeah, 1971. I typed that in, man. They didn't like it. All right, then we're complete. So I finally completed it for that one customer. And so now what it did is it sent me another email for the next party to do theirs. So if I click on my inbox, let me get out of that. If I click on my inbox and bring in my next signature, you can see it told me they finished theirs, and here's my new invitation for my next party. And of course, everything is working at lightning speed this morning. Anyway, I'll go ahead and finish that up and send you guys out a copy of that. But